Cindy Collier. I want to talk just a moment about a story out of the book of John, chapter 4. And we know this story. It's about the Samaritan woman at the well, and it's such a rich story. It has so many lessons in that. But as I was preparing to teach a lesson, I wanted to view this story through different eyes, with a different perspective. I wanted to come up with a few things that Jesus did, very simple things, but very deep. And also a few responses that the Samaritan woman had after her interaction with Jesus. And how we can run that story through the filter, the sieve of our own life, our own story, our own testimony, so that we can practically use that today. So, let's begin in chapter 4, verse 4. We're going to start with verse 4. Now he had to go through Samaria. Now he's talking about Jesus. Backstory. Samaria, now Jesus was a Jew. The Samaritan people and the Jews didn't have the best relationship. But he was going to go through Samaria because he and the disciples were going from Judea to Galilee, and that was the most direct route. So that's the way it looked on the outside, but Jesus had a plan. He had a plan. He went through Samaria for a reason. So verse 5, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, in Hebrew, Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well, and it was about noon. It was about the 6th hour, the hottest part of the day. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had already gone into town to buy food. So the Samaritan woman said to him, "You're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" Because the Jews didn't associate with the Samaritans. Verse 10, Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it was who asked you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water." So the first lesson that I came up with and that I learned from this is that Jesus found her. That seems very simple. Of course he found her. No, Jesus found her. He saw her. Just as he does us. I know a lot of times we think that we are forgotten, that we are not good enough, we are not as accepted as other people. But Jesus sees us. God sees us. Jesus laid the groundwork. He moved the chess pieces around in this scenario so he can make that move. That's what he does for us too in our lives. Sometimes things will be going along and things will happen. You'll think, man, why did that happen? But God is moving the pieces around, the puzzle pieces around in your life so that you can meet a certain person. You can walk down a certain path. That's what he did for this woman. Now, she was an outcast. She thought that she had been forgotten, and she had. Not only because of the life that she led, but it could have been because of her upbringing and, we don't know the details of her life, but she was an outcast. She had to go in the middle of the day because the other women wouldn't accept her. She wasn't good enough. They ridiculed her. They belittled her. So she had to go when it was the hottest. Walk all the way down that dusty road to that well in the middle of the blaring, glaring sun when the other women were doing whatever in the shade. She had to do that because they did not accept her. She was an outcast. But Jesus didn't pick one of the women in town, the popular ones. He didn't pick them. He didn't pick the governor. He didn't pick a king. No, he picked an outcast woman. A woman who thought so little of herself, she did not come up against this popular crowd women who belittled her. She said, "No, I'll just isolate myself. I am not as worthy." So I'm going to isolate myself. I'll just come. It's easier to just come in the middle of the day because I'm not worthy to come. It's just too hard. Jesus found that woman. That woman. Are there times in your life where you feel like you've been forgotten? By other people, certainly, but by God? There was a time in my life when I felt like God had forgotten me. All this time I've been praying, my prayers were not being answered. He has forgotten me. He's on to someone else. It's more important. Do you feel that way sometimes? God did not forget her, and he's not forgotten us. There's nothing that you can do in your life to make him forget you. He sees you. Jesus was just biding his time when that woman would get to that well so that he could get to that well. He was probably telling the disciples walking along that road, slow down, guys. You're walking too fast. I know what I have planned. I know who I'm going to meet, and she's not ready yet. She's not there yet. The pieces are not in place. Slow down, guys. He found her where she was. That's important. The next thing that I relearned, is that Jesus confronted her. He confronted her. Verses 16 through 18. Jesus told the Samaritan woman, go call your husband, after they'd had a conversation about water. He was doing an object lesson for her because they were at the well, and so the water was very important to her. It's the reason that she came. Jesus is really good at object lessons, and God does that for us now. If we'll open up our eyes and our ears, even in nature, he's constantly showing his hand and teaching us object lessons on things that we need to know. He was teaching her an object lesson. After he'd gone through all that, he said, go call your husband and come back. He knew. Verse 17, I have no husband, she said. Jesus said to her, you're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you've had 5 husbands, and the man that you have now is not your husband. What you have said is quite true. He confronted her in her sin. He did not overlook. Yes, he found her, and yes, he saw the potential that was in her. He didn't see her like other people saw her. He saw the potential that her story had and how he could use that. But he said, I can't use this. So I'm going to confront her in her sin. She needs to be forgiven. She needs to walk with me. She needs to be surrendered to me so that I can use that story. I see that potential in her. So I'm going to confront her in her sin. And he wasn't afraid to do it. And he did. But what did she do? She was very honest. He knew everything about her. There is nothing in your life that you can hide from God. There's no amount of sin. He sees down to the attitudes, the things we think. Good heavens, the things we think, the attitudes, the motives. We can do all the good we want if it's for the wrong motives. God sees through that. He saw her. And he was very pleased at her willingness to come and be forthright with him in her sin. So he confronted her. What is the next thing that Jesus did? He accepted her. Look at verse 26, what he did at the end of that interaction. It says that Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, am he. Now, to set that up in verse 25, the woman had said, I know that Messiah is coming, called the Christ. When he comes, he's going to explain everything to us. They had been looking for the Messiah. He said, you know what? I'm he. I'm that person. I'm the one you're looking for. Now, he chose her. He confronted her. He found and confronted her, and now he accepted her. He did not tell that bit of truth which was a powerful bit of truth. He didn't tell a king, a governor, one of the women in town who was the popular ones. He didn't tell any of them. He told her. He told her. He accepted her. He did not belittle her when she told him was up front with her sin, the things that she had done wrong. He didn't belittle her. He didn't beat her down more. Well, you crazy woman, why did you do? He didn't do any of that. She had heard that enough. He didn't belittle her, make her feel guilt. He accepted her. I'm he. I'm the one you're looking for, regardless of what you've done. You're looking for the Messiah. You are a seeker. I am he. He not only chose a woman, he chose a Samaritan woman, and he chose an outcast Samaritan woman to give this information to. He accepted her. That in itself is powerful. So Jesus found her even in the depths of the mess she was in. He confronted her sin, but he accepted her. Now, what did she do? What did the Samaritan do? Samaritan woman do? Verse 15. The woman said to him, "Sir, give me the water you're talking about so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." Now, she probably did not understand the depths of that spiritual lesson he was trying to teach her, but she wanted it. She believed him. I believe that you've got that water, so give it to me. She believed him. She began to see herself through his eyes instead of through the eyes of that bunch of women, through the eyes of the men that she'd been married to. Maybe whatever she went through, the emotional trauma that she'd gone through as a child, who knows? She began to not see herself through any of that, because it will change your perspective. You will begin to look in the mirror and see yourself as a different person instead of through truth. You don't see yourself as God sees you and through truth. You see yourself as all that other chatter, all the other mess. But she believed him. Maybe I am worthy. I do want that water. It would take a while for her to learn the depth of that truth, but she believed him. Sometimes I would like for Jesus to come down, sit down with me in the recliner and just talk, because she had a wonderful interaction with him one-on-one. Man, wouldn't I like to have that sometimes? And we can have it, but there's nothing like that personal face-to-face interaction. Think about what you would ask him and what you would tell him. What would you ask him to do? Is there something that you would tell him that you would do for him if he were face to face? Because you believed, because you saw. She believed him. The second thing that she did in verse 28, she surrendered. Look at verse 28, just the first part of that verse. Then leaving her water jar, that's the key. The woman went back to town and said to the people, "Come see a man who told me everything I did. Could this be the Messiah?" What did she leave? What was the entire reason for her coming to the well that day with her water jar? Because the essentials of life were there. That would hold the essentials of life. What is the most important thing in her life at that time, and probably for her family, was what was in that jar. And she left it. It was so life-changing for her to have an interaction with Jesus. She left that jar. Now, I don't know that she might not have been a very wealthy woman. I doubt that she was, because then she would have been a little more accepted. She's probably a poor woman. That jar was expensive, I'm sure. But she left it. It didn't mean anything to her. You know, if she'd have had that jar filled with water when she took off running, that would have slowed her down, because she wouldn't want to spill any of the water she worked so hard to get. That would have slowed her down. What is in our life that's slowing us down? What is our jar? that we need to leave and surrender to the Lord? What are we so focused on that may hold the essentials, what we feel are the essential of life? But remember that water, she would be thirsty. She'd keep having to refill it. But he wanted to give her living water, that essential of life that she was so focused on. She came there for, she gave up. So what is your jar that you need to leave? Is it something in your life that you become so focused on that you can't even move forward in the potential that you have in Christ, the things that you have to do in the Lord? What would slow you down? What is slowing you down? What is your jar that you need to leave? She surrendered all. The last thing, what she did when she surrendered and took off running back to town, she testified. There are 2 verses there, verse 29 and 39. Come see a man who told me everything I did. Could this be the Messiah? Verse 39, many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I did. Now, your unique story is so important, but your unique story is not what saves people. God honored her excitement in telling her testimony, but what did she do? Did she have a knowledge, an instantaneous knowledge of all the Mosaic law and all the prophetic things that have come to pass since he said he was the Messiah and he had come? She didn't know any of that. She was not instantly a rabbi. She didn't know any of that. All she knew was what God had did for her. God had done for her. She knew her interaction with Jesus, and that was it. She knew that he had changed her from the inside out. And she was excited. That's all she had to tell. Come see a man who told me everything I did. Could this be the Messiah? She was probably still questioning. You do not instantaneously learn everything that you need to know. All your questions are answered. I've walked with the Lord for a long time, 50 years, and I still have questions. It still doesn't make sense. If it made sense, then I would be God, but I'm not. She had questions. She was a very new believer. You're going to have questions. Could this be the Messiah? Many of the Samaritans, verse 39, from the town believed in him because of her testimony. And all she did was tell her story. So when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 more days. And because of his words, many more became believers. But listen to this. Then they went back to the woman and they said, we no longer believe just because of what you said. Now we've heard it for ourselves, and we know that this man is really the Savior of the world. Our job is not to have all the knowledge in the world to be able to save people. We can't do that. Our job is to tell our story, what Jesus did for us, and to guide them to him who can. That is all she did. She guided them to Jesus. She testified of what he did for her and guided them to Jesus, who had the answer. That's all. Our unique story, our testimony, that's the purpose. That was the potential that Jesus saw in her, was that she had a fantastic, powerful testimony, and that she would believe, and that she would go back to this town, and that she would tell them what Jesus did for her, and that in itself would guide them to him. She didn't have living water. Guide them to Jesus for that living water. Jesus is the answer, not us. All we are to do is just tell what he did for us. So that is what was so powerful to me. Jesus found her in her mess. She did not have to get cleaned up and come back. She didn't have to do that. He found her, but he confronted her in her sin. And he accepted her because he loved her. He truly loved her. He wasn't faking it. He loved her. And what did she do? She believed. She believed him. She surrendered. She left that jar. And then she testified. Not as the rabbi, not as one who knows all, but just she testified to the change that happened in her life because of Jesus. Point them to Jesus. Point them to Jesus. That's our job. So this was a different way for me to look at this story. And if you want the details of the story, we skipped over so much. Go back and read the chapter 4 of the book of John. It's so rich, and you're probably going to learn even more than this. There's so many other lessons in there. So I hope this was an encouragement to you today.